ask you guys to go ahead and check out Insane Labs if you are in the market for purchasing some sort of an energy drink or focus drink or anything for like pre-workout, anything like that. I'd like to ask you guys to go ahead and check out Insane Labs. Use code WARLORD for 20% off your purchase. There will be a link down in the description to their website. Go ahead and check them out and buy something if you feel like it. What is up, people? YouTube, this is Phil here, bringing you guys another video to my channel. And today we will be talking about the top 10 future Call of Duty settings. So the time that I'm recording this, a bunch of zombies information just got leaked. I want to touch up on that real quick. Super excited about that. It looks awesome. I'm not going to link anything or show anything because that's something you shouldn't do, but I am excited for the actual trailer, more or less. That is basically it. I'm going to go ahead and get right into this video. So I put a straw poll out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, stuff like that, to see what future Call of Duty settings people are looking forward to the most, or what they would like to see the most. And so this had quite a few votes. I think it had over 1,000 votes on it, and this is the list that they came up with. So this is a community-driven top 10, and I hope that you guys can fully understand that. And I actually line up quite a bit with this top 10, honestly, but there are a few shocks in here. So the first one here is Future Earth, which Future Earth, in my opinion, at number 10, Future Earth is like the Black Ops 2 setting, which really surprised me, because I feel like if they released a Black Ops 3 or even Infinite Warfare, dare I say it, and there was no jetpacks, but it was more of a Future Earth setting, and none of the Infinite Warfare stuff took place in space, just on like a destroyed, futuristic looking Earth, I would be okay with that, you know, like if even with the laser guns a little bit, not my cup of tea, but I would be more okay with that. But that came in at number 10, that's what the community voted. And at number 9, we have Space. So Space was higher up on the list than Future Earth, which absolutely shocks me. I think we could all mutually agree that we don't ever want to see boots, or we don't ever want to see jetpacks come back. We want to keep it boots on the ground. But I feel like when it comes to a space Call of Duty, that's almost inevitable. But Activision and the development teams always have things up their sleeve that they're able to do to make it as player friendly as possible, that the community really wanted. And I think that if we ever got a space Call of Duty back again, I would hope that there is only boots on the ground and no jetpacks, because it just, I don't know, it didn't mesh well with the community. Moving on to number 8, we have World War I. I loved Battlefield 1, but I don't think World War I is anywhere that Call of Duty specifically should go to. I feel like it is a little too dry. I think World War II is the farthest back that we should really be going with a Call of Duty game, because the weapon selection, it just gets real weak before that. I think there's plenty of guns in World War II, but World War I is just, it's just not as fruitful as World War II. There's just not as much to pick from, and I feel like it just wouldn't play well in Call of Duty. It works in Battlefield because it is a more slow game. Don't think it would work so well in Call of Duty. Moving on to number 7, this one blows my mind, guys. I thought this was going to be dead last on this list, and it is Civil War. People want to see the Civil War. Like, there's a group of people out there who honestly want to see a Call of Duty Civil War. What in the world? I can't even, like, I just got to talk about World War I being dry and not a lot of weapon variety. Think about the Civil War. What would we possibly, it would be using musket rifles and different versions of musket rifles. Imagine what the variants would be like in that game and supply drops. I would not want to see that game. That sounds like something Infinity Ward would make. But definitely not looking forward to a Civil War game if that ever happens. I hope that it doesn't, but I mean, I don't know. Crazy stuff happens in Call of Duty sometimes. Moving on to number 6, something that also surprised me. World War II. I mean, I know that people probably are voting this less just because we're about to get a World War II game, myself included, but I feel like World War II should always be in like the top 3 or 4 options for a Call of Duty setting, because World War II is just such a phenomenal, I mean, sad, but phenomenal time period in history in the world, where just crazy stuff happened, and I think that that's something that video games really should capitalize on, and they have in the past, but like technology keeps getting better, so I feel like it should just always be there as an option. Moving on to number 5, we have the Korean War, which this is something that I would really like to see. I think the Korean War would have a lot of good options. I think that as somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about the Korean War, I think that the issue is there wasn't a whole lot of action. So the stuff that they have to do would be a lot of made up things, you know, and I think that's probably part of the reason why they haven't done it. And also there might be some like political reasons in there. Korea still kind of holds a grudge against us. So I feel like if the United States started releasing, you know, Korean War video games, there would be some conflict there, some issues that aren't already there, obviously, because they don't like us as is. So, I mean, that's probably part of it. Moving on to number 4 here, we have the Cold War era, which Black Ops 1 kind of capitalized on this. But I would like to see a little bit more of this, like some secretive fighting and war styles and like behind enemy lines and like some FBI crazy stuff. I think that would be really, really cool. I would be totally down with that as a future Call of Duty setting. And honestly, I feel like we'll see it again. And it would be cool if Treyarch was the ones to make it because they did a fantastic job with Black Ops 1. And I'm starting to gain more faith in Sledgehammer 2, so like I wouldn't mind if they made it. But it's just kind of like a waiting game. We got to see what they're thinking, what lines up with the community at the time. Because right now, I feel like the Call of Duty community has a lot of kids. So we're going to have to wait and see who gets turned off and who gets turned on, as weird as that sounds, to Call of Duty World War II and where that will take us with future settings. Whether it's, you know, still remaining in the past or if they're like, all right, next cycle, we got to go to modern time or something. So that way we're not, you know, filling these kids with so much history and like people that just don't care about this stuff. Moving on to number 3, we have Desert Storm, which I think this comes back to the Korean War in a sense where I don't know if there was a whole lot that happened. I feel like they'd have to make a lot up, but I feel like some of the maps could be really cool. It would kind of touch a little bit on the modern times, but not like super modern. I don't know the weaponry from the Korean War, or the Desert Storm conflict was in the late 80s or early 90s, I want to say, something like that. So, I mean, there's going to be like M4s and stuff, but I don't think we got like ACRs and, you know, the guns we know from the Modern Warfare series. So the weaponry would be a little bit older, a little bit closer to like the Cold War era guns, but a different setting. So I think that would be a cool concept too. Definitely not one of my top picks, me personally, but I wouldn't mind seeing it either. Moving on to number 2, we have the Vietnam conflict. So Vietnam is something that I am like obsessed with. Like, I just want to know as much as I can about the Vietnam War, and I don't feel like there's been enough really good games that touch on the Vietnam War, and I don't know why exactly. Maybe it was too gory, maybe it was just too much of a touchy subject, but I feel like that would be a really, really good game to release. Vietnam conflict, the guns, the setting, the jungle, like all of that stuff is just fascinating to me. That and World War II and modern era, kind of. Just those 3 time periods are my favorite time periods to learn about. And I don't feel like I have learned very much about Vietnam and all of the things that really happened and, you know, how useful helicopters were and stuff like that. Black Ops 1 did kind of touch on Vietnam, but it wasn't necessarily like, there was just a couple of missions where you were fighting and it happened to be a Vietnam setting because it was part of it was like a background basically. But I want a full-fledged Vietnam game dedicated to that time period and those soldiers and those weapons and stuff like that. I think that would be absolutely epic. Moving on to number 1, we have modern day. So this honestly is probably my number 1 pick too. I'm ready for another modern day Call of Duty. I think that a modern day Call of Duty would be fantastic because we're really lacking, like, I think that the weaponry is just, it's really good. First of all, it's real. Second of all, the camos don't have to be like super accurate. I don't want like crazy stuff, but like MWR, but with more weapons, you know, and just like a new Call of Duty. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Twitter and Facebook links will be down in the description as always. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It would be really dope if we could hit 5 likes on this video. That would be awesome. It would mean a lot to me. Anyways, guys, deuces.